So today, lads, we're going to be talking about Sydney Colson, and she went on to Aaliyah Boston's podcast yesterday and talked about the kind of negativity that she received from being a part of the Indiana Fever. And we all kind of know that that's something that is happening.
Sydney Colson just dropped a bombshell that's shaking up the WNBA world. On Aaliyah Boston's podcast, the veteran guard admitted that joining the Indiana Fever has brought her more hate than she's ever experienced in her entire career. Imagine that, a respected player known for her humor and positivity, suddenly hit with waves of negativity just for signing with a team. The revelation exposes something deeper. The Fever's growing spotlight has made every move under the microscope. It's raising serious questions about how fandom, rivalry, and public perception have turned what should be a proud career move into an unexpected storm of criticism.
Whether I'm playing, we want things to look like what we want them to look like. And I knew coming into this season, once people started talking, once I was here and experiencing it, like, people had a lot to say. There was a lot of negativity.
Sydney Colson just said the quiet part out loud, and it's something the WNBA probably didn't want making headlines. In her conversation on Aaliyah Boston's podcast, Colson revealed that joining the Indiana Fever brought her more hate than she's ever experienced in her career. She admitted that, for the first time, people genuinely disliked her, not for anything she said or did, but simply because she signed with the Fever. Her honesty confirmed what many have sensed all season. Players in Indiana have been facing a wave of unfair negativity. Colson expected extra attention with all the Caitlin Clark spotlight surrounding the team, but she never imagined the backlash would be so intense. Known for her humor and easygoing personality, Colson has always been one of the WNBA's most beloved figures. But after joining Indiana, everything changed overnight. Fans who once laughed with her suddenly turned against her, turning what should have been an exciting new chapter into a harsh reminder of how unforgiving the spotlight can be.
And I just looked at it like, I'm not used to this. Typically, I'm the person that people are just like, oh, we love Sid, that's funny, blah, blah, blah. Some people be like, not funny, and I'm like, they don't have a sense of humor. But like, for the most part, people have liked me and have admired me from the outside, but that's never made me do the things I do. Like, I do the things that I do because I enjoy my teammates, because I like comedy, because I like whatever I'm doing, not for other people's approval. So once I got here and was experiencing people's disapproval, it didn't really faze me because I still understood. I think I understood even more so.
What makes Sydney Colson's revelation so powerful is the credibility behind it. This isn't coming from a newcomer trying to make headlines. It's from a battle-tested veteran who's been around the WNBA long enough to recognize when something's off. So when she says the hate she's received since joining the Indiana Fever is unlike anything she's ever experienced, it hits differently. Colson made it clear there was no controversy, no drama, nothing to spark that kind of backlash, just pure negativity tied to the jersey she now wears. The same charm, humor, and energy that made her a fan favorite didn't suddenly disappear. The only change was the team name on her chest. That's what makes her words sting, the idea that support can vanish overnight because of one signing. Her comments expose a deeper bias surrounding the Fever, suggesting that the team's spotlight, fueled by the Caitlin Clark effect, may have created a new kind of pressure across the league. It's unsettling to think that simply joining Indiana could flip so much public perception, but Colson's honesty makes it impossible to ignore.
To not liking you for no reason, I'm probably exactly where I need to be. So once the injury happened, I'm like, once again, this is something that I don't fully get, but this must be where I need to be, sidelined. And it made me an even more vocal leader. It made me pay attention to things maybe that I wasn't paying attention to that other people had going on. So I could be more tapped into if they're having a hard time and I need to come over here and help them out, whether it's mental, physical, whatever. I had to get outside of me. And that was the lesson that I learned in this. I hope it's the one that God wanted me to learn, but yeah, it was just one of those things that nobody wants that to happen, but you still have to move forward and figure out a way to still be, of service to your team.
Here's where Sydney Colson's story takes a powerful turn. She didn't let the hate define her, she used it to fuel her. Instead of being discouraged by the negativity, Colson saw it as confirmation that she was exactly where she was meant to be. That kind of mindset flips everything. she turned criticism into motivation and rejection into validation. Colson understood something deeper. When people hate you for no real reason, it's usually not about you, it's about what you represent. And in this case, she realized the backlash wasn't personal. It was about what the Indiana Fever symbolized right now, a rising force that's shaking up the league and making people uncomfortable with change. Rather than backing away from that pressure, Colson leaned into it. She embraced the noise, recognizing that sometimes, the louder the critics get, the clearer the sign that you're making an impact where it truly matters.
We all know that that's something that's happening with all these players. Is like they're just not in any way happy as long as they have to publicly hate the Fever. And you know, the only way you can get back into these people's good graces is by pulling a Dawn of Honor.
What makes Sydney Colson's situation even more powerful is that joining the Indiana Fever wasn't something that just happened to her. It was a choice she made with intention. She wanted to be there. Colson spoke highly of Kelsey Mitchell, admired the team's growing culture, and felt that the Fever's energy aligned perfectly with her own. She even pointed out that she and Caitlin Clark share a similar personality, which gave her confidence that they'd click both as teammates and as people. For Colson, signing with Indiana wasn't about opportunity, it was about belonging. That's why the backlash felt so undeserved. She didn't stumble into the situation or take a last-minute deal. She joined the Fever because she believed in what they were building. Yet, instead of being met with support, she was hit with hostility for trusting her instincts. To make matters worse, her season took a tough turn when she tore her meniscus, forcing her to watch from the sidelines while enduring a wave of criticism. But through all of it, Colson's resilience never wavered. She stood by her choice, proving that conviction means more than comfort, even when the road gets rough. Sydney Colson wasn't just battling through a meniscus injury, she was fighting to find her place on a team that had suddenly become the league's biggest target. Being sidelined was frustrating enough, but combining that with relentless online hate and quiet tension from around the WNBA made it an uphill climb. Still, instead of letting the negativity consume her, Colson turned her setback into an opportunity to lead. She became more vocal, more observant, and more intentional about lifting her teammates up. She realized the hate wasn't just directed at her, it was hitting the entire Fever locker room. So, she made it her mission to steady the group, offering encouragement and perspective from the sidelines. That's true veteran leadership, guiding through example, even when you can't be on the floor. What makes Colson's honesty so striking is that she didn't dodge the truth. She admitted the hate had nothing to do with her talent, personality, or behavior. It was solely because she chose to wear an Indiana Fever jersey. And that blunt admission confirmed what Fever fans already sensed. This backlash isn't just rivalry, it's something deeper and more toxic. By confronting it head-on, Colson became the voice many players were too afraid to be, proving that leadership isn't just about stats, it's about courage, empathy, and speaking truth when it matters most. What makes Sydney Colson's words hit even harder is her willingness to say what most players won't. In a league where backlash is often brushed off or ignored, her honesty cuts through the noise. And when you look at the pattern she highlighted, it's impossible to deny. Take DeWanna Bonner. Once she left the Fever, all the hate aimed her way disappeared overnight. Suddenly, she was celebrated again, and that contrast says it all. The negativity was never truly about the players, it was about the uniform. That's what makes Colson's truth so powerful. She exposed that the hostility surrounding the Indiana Fever runs deeper than individual personalities or performances. It's about what the team represents, and more specifically, their link to Caitlin Clark. The second a player signs with the Fever, they're thrown into a no-win situation. Play great? You're accused of riding Clark's fame. Struggle? You're the weak link. Speak up for your teammates? You're fake. Stay quiet? You're jealous. There's no winning narrative, because the hate isn't logical, it's emotional, almost tribal. The Fever have become the lightning rod for all the tension that comes with Clark's meteoric rise, absorbing the full force of the league's divided opinions. Colson's remarks don't just describe a tough situation, they capture a moment in WNBA history where one team, more than any other, has become the center of both admiration and backlash, proving just how polarizing the Indiana Fever have truly become. The Indiana Fever have become the rare kind of team that splits the basketball world in two, loved passionately by some, despised just as fiercely by others. It's the same energy you'd expect from powerhouse franchises like the Lakers, Yankees, or Cowboys, organizations so prominent that every move they make dominates the conversation. When you reach that level of relevance, every win gets dissected, every loss exaggerated, and every success dismissed as luck or bias. That's the price of being in the spotlight. But here's the difference. Players who joined those historic franchises know what they are signing up for. The women who joined the Fever in 2024 and 2025 didn't. They walked into a storm unlike anything the WNBA has ever seen. Caitlin Clark's arrival transformed the Fever into a cultural phenomenon, but it also brought a wave of scrutiny and hostility that no one was prepared for. Sydney Colson's story exposes that darker side, a corner of WNBA fandom that's crossed the line from passionate support into toxic behavior. When simply wearing a certain jersey makes players targets of hate, that's not competitiveness, that's corrosion. The league should be celebrating the Fever's rise as proof of growth and mainstream relevance. Instead, parts of the fan base seem threatened by it, clinging to an outdated comfort zone instead of embracing a future where women's basketball finally commands the attention it deserves. The fact that Sydney Colson, a respected veteran known for her humor and leadership, says she learned new slurs after joining the Indiana Fever should stop everyone in their tracks. That's not rivalry anymore, that's decay. And if the WNBA truly wants to build on its growing momentum, it has to confront this culture head-on. No player should ever be harassed or vilified simply because they chose to play for a particular team. This kind of toxic environment doesn't just damage individuals, it damages the entire league. When fans see that being part of the Fever can make even the most respected players targets of hate, it undermines everything the WNBA claims to stand for: inclusivity, empowerment, and unity. It turns what should be an era of excitement and expansion into one tainted by hostility and division. The backlash has gotten so irrational that even Lexi Hull, one of the most humble, hard-working players in the league, is being attacked simply for being friends with Caitlin Clark. Hull isn't chasing headlines or stirring controversy, she's quietly doing her job and representing her team with grace. Yet somehow, that's enough to draw hate. It's petty, it's unjust, and it makes the WNBA look small at a time when it's finally breaking through to the mainstream. Sydney Colson's perspective on handling hate shows just how grounded she really is. She said she plays the game because she loves her teammates, not because she's seeking anyone else's approval, and that's exactly the mindset needed to rise above irrational criticism. You can't let people who dislike you for no reason control your peace or dictate your purpose. Colson gets that the negativity says far more about the people spreading it than it ever will about her. She's confident enough in who she is to stay focused on her role and not let outside noise change her approach. That's emotional maturity at its finest, something younger players might find harder to maintain in the same situation. And her point about respect, or rather the lack of it, proved to be spot on. So many teams walked into games against the Fever expecting easy wins, convinced by the lazy narrative that Indiana was nothing more than Caitlin Clark and a group of average role players. But those teams quickly found out how wrong they were. The Fever played with grit, discipline, and unity, and made several opponents pay for taking them lightly. The lack of respect for the Indiana Fever was obvious all season, and it ended up costing several teams wins they should have had. Too many opponents came in unprepared, assuming Indiana would be an easy matchup, only to get blindsided by a team that refused to quit. When Caitlin Clark went down with an injury, the pattern became even clearer. Teams that took the Fever seriously and played with focus usually handled business. But the ones that came in expecting a cakewalk got exposed, because the rest of the roster was far more capable than people realized. That stretch proved once and for all that the Fever weren't just a one-player team, but by then, the narrative had already hardened. Fans and even some analysts refused to update their perception, clinging to outdated takes despite the results on the floor. It's a reminder that sometimes, public opinion moves slower than reality. And on a smaller note, Colson's social media advice about using the following tab instead of the For You page fits perfectly.